Good evening, everyone. We happy to come out this evening. Got a lot of information to you to digest, and ingest, and put wherever we're going to put it. So we're proud of our employees, proud of Wayne, all of. I've been here 23 years now. I believe it. I'll miss a lot of the boys, and I've enjoyed my time here at East Central. And whoever takes my place, I know they'll enjoy it too. Again, this time I'm going to have Dwight Luther come up and say the prayer.
Hello, everybody. You guys will bow with me. We'll say this little short prayer. Heavenly Father, as we come before you today, Lord, first of all, we want to thank you for the one blessing that you really gave us, Lord, salvation, as we're going to celebrate Easter Sunday this Sunday, Lord. Again, Lord, we ask you to bless each and every one in this room today. We ask you to bless the communities that we serve, Lord. Again, Lord, we ask you to bless our military, men and women overseas, Lord, even here at home. Keep them safe, bring them home safely. Again, Lord, we ask you to bless our employees as they go about their days in this work here at this co-op, Lord. Keep them safe and bring them home to their families, Lord. Again, Lord, we ask you to bless this meeting tonight we're about to conduct and give us wisdom to make the right choices for this co-op, Lord. Again, Lord, we ask you of all these things. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And Larry Harper's going to lead the flag.
Please join me in flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now our moderator. Here we go.
I have no idea why they chose me for this job. Guys, I'm Steve Ward. I'm your county commissioner for Hoboken County District 2. I took office January 2nd of last year. And I appreciate everything the electric company does. I really do like opening my eyes spots when the lights on. That being said, I'm the moderator, and I'd like to start with Mr.
Stephen, say one more thing.
Here we go.
I want to introduce all the board members. Joel Hobbs, our president. Larry Harkers, our vice president. Jim Hall, secretary treasurer. And who will know? Mike,
Let's see that there.
Vernon, and Jay Emerson. And Dwight. And, I'm going to introduce you.
Hey, he just did half my job. Am I good to go? Yes, sir. Where do we start? Okay, Mr. Dwayne Elam has served as the CEO of East Central Electric Cooperative for 1 year. Prior to that, he served the city of Wagner for 18 years as a utility manager and city manager. While there, he served for 7 years on the board of the Municipal Electric Systems of Oklahoma, which serves 64 cities across the state of Oklahoma, including service as the board president. He grew up on co-op lines and is the third generation in his family to be members of East Central Electric Cooperative. Now, Vice President of Finance and Accounting, Teresa Sparks, has been employed at East Central Electric Cooperative for 19 years. Good job. With 30 years of total experience in cooperative accounting, and has been a member of the cooperative for 12 years. Vice President of Operations and Engineering, Jerome Roberts, has been employed at East Central Electric Cooperative for 22 years, working as a lineman and engineer before moving into a management position. Jerome grew up on the co-op lines, moved away during his service with the U.S. Air Force, thank you, sir, has been a member of the cooperative at his own home for 24 years. Vice President of Member Services, Tamara Hawkins, has been employed at East Central Electric Cooperative for 32 years in multiple member service roles. She has been a member herself for 19 years. Vice President of Member and Public Relations, Catherine Russell, has been employed at East Central Electric Cooperative for 12 years in multiple member relations roles and 8 years of prior experience in hospitality and administrative services. Vice President of Broadband Operations, Jeremy Hendrickson, has been employed at East Central Electric Cooperative for almost 7 years and has 15 years of prior experience in the telecommunications industry. Vice President of Cooperative Services, Gary Creekmore, has been employed at East Central Electric Cooperative for 8 years and has over 30 years of experience working for manufacturing and warehouse companies. Guys, I'm just here to tell you there is a lot of experience in this room for our electric, and y'all are duly, duly appreciated. How do I go on to the next one?
Steve, if you would.
Yes, sir.
And no disrespect to Max or anything else, but I would like for you to go ahead and read the bio
Okay.
of our board, just to
Will do.
show the experience of our board members as well.
There's many years right here, I believe it needs to be read. First, I'm gonna start with Mr. Max Shoemake. He has served on the board for 23 years representing the Morse and Okmulgee areas. Max and his family have been co-op members for multiple generations, running Shoemake Dairy. Their ranch was one of the first to be connected with the co-op when the co-op was founded in 1938. Lowell Hobbs, Mr. Hobbs, has served on the board for 20 years representing the Haskell, Leonard, and Bixby areas. Lowell and his family have been members of the cooperative for multiple generations, running Barefoot Ranch in Haskell. Mr. Jay Emerson has served on the board going on 5 years representing the Shakota and Northeast Lake Eufaula area. Jay and his family have been members of the co-op for 45 years. Jay is a rancher and retired teacher, have taught elementary and physical education at both Midway and Stidham Public Schools. Larry Harvey has served on the board for 17 years representing the Beggs, Mounds, Slick, Twin Hills, and Okmulgee areas. He served for the U.S. Army, thank you, sir, Reserves for 6 years, and he retired after 34 years of teaching VOAG and FFA in Beggs High School. Larry and his family have been co-op members on the same land for multiple generations. Mr. Jim Hall has served on the board for 10 years, representing Ofuskie County and parts of Okmulgee County. Jim and his family have been co-op members for multiple generations. His occupation is as a Farm Bureau insurance agent. Mr. Mike Vernon has served on the board for 10 years, representing the greater Muskogee area. Mike grew up on co-op lines, moved away during his service for the U.S. Army, thank you, and has been a member of the cooperative at his own home for 18 years. His occupation is as a safety and health director. Mr. Dwight Luther, used to run from him when I was a kid, has served on the board for 22 years representing Creek County. Dwight and his family have been co-op members for 35 years and is a Bristow volunteer fireman and retired Oklahoma State game warden. See? Dwayne Elam has served as the CEO of East Central Electric Cooperative for 1 year. Prior to that, he served the city of Wagner for 18 years.
That's starting to.
I was rolling. You're supposed to stop me. All right, thank you, Lord. At this time, members submitted several questions in advance. The cooperative has prepared a presentation to answer these questions, which will last about an hour. And then there will be time for audience questions at the end.
With that, thank you, Steve, and I'll start the program off tonight. I think everybody can hear me. We have 2 monitors set up tonight. For that side of the room, we can see it as well, and up here in the front. Before I jump into our presentation tonight, I do want to stress that you heard a lot about the experience of the employees, but you also heard a lot about the experience of the board. The board lives this, breathes this, and they're deeply involved in every decision that we make. This is not just a one time a month they show up and conduct a board meeting. There's an extensive amount of training that goes behind the scenes that all of your board members have done and continue to do for this co-op at East Central Electric. So I just want to make sure everybody is aware of that and how fully engaged they are with operations for our benefit as members in the future going forward. I'm going to try to get off over to the side here, so make sure I don't block anybody. But I want to take you back about 15, 20 years and then give you a glimpse into where we are today and what the future looks like as well. One of the first bullet points you see up there is 30-year decisions based on 4-year political terms. Well, what exactly do I mean by that? Well, think about it from the federal government and a federal level. Every 4 years, we have an election for a president in the United States. Every president has their quote-unquote agenda or policies they would like to set forth for the United States to make us a better country into the future for not only ourselves, but our kids and our grandkids. However, over those years, there has been some transaction within the utility industry. And I say this to understand where we've been, where we are, and what the future looks like in front of us ahead, to help not only one, understand the situation that we all in the utility business are facing today, but two, have an understanding and education of it as well. So as we move into the future, we have a little bit of knowledge, and I encourage you to go out and do some of your own research, look into the different aspects of things that are taking place in the utility industry today. But without getting into partisan politics, so just understand I'm not swinging left, I'm not swinging right. I'm just talking about the policies of the different administrations that took place over the last 15 to 20 years. There has been an aspect of different philosophies moving forward. For years and years, everything in the utility industry, specifically electric, was generated off the coal industry. A thermal aspect, 24/7, non-stop, only went down for maintenance, usually in the off seasons when the load and demand for electricity was light, to be able to perform routine maintenance and get it back up. Some of those coal plants, they gotten older, just like a car or anything else, and they need to be retired out. Unfortunately, some of those coal plants have been retired out because of the environmental aspects, depending upon what federal administration was in office, etc., moving forward. So that's a little bit of where some of this started moving forward. As you fast forward into different administrations, they have a different opinion of that and would rather see everything go environmental friendly, carbon free aspect, carbon footprint into the production of energy. So that goes into the generation standpoint. You see some of the wind and some of the hydro and solar that's up there that I'll allude to a little bit later. But some of that reasoning is trying to make a shift to be more carbon free, because the coal and the byproduct of carbon being produced through the generation standpoint. Throughout those years, as those coal plants retired, and I'm going to give you an example. Say you had a 500 megawatt coal plant unit that provided 500 megawatts of electricity. When that coal plant unit was retired, regardless of whatever situation was, whether it was political agenda or just it was cost more to reinvest into that plant than it was to build something new, what took place is you had to replace that 500 megawatts. Well, 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, as an example, the cost to build that coal plant was nowhere near what it is modern day times. If you'll think back and look back, and without asking anybody to date or age themselves, think about 50 years ago when you go and you went and bought a new pickup truck for the farm, or you bought a new car for your wife. what you paid for that car. Fast forward to today, what would you pay for that same conversation, whether it be a truck or car? The escalation of the cost, the escalation of economic drivers, all of that goes into play. So to say all that, to say this, you cannot replace that 500 megawatt generation for the same amount of what it cost 50, 60 years ago, just to stay at the same level of electric production. That's one aspect. Second aspect of it is, and we hear about it today because it's in the news almost everywhere we see, it's front and center in the state of Oklahoma, a lot of city councils, even at the state capitol, it's the data center aspect and the AI generation that's coming forward. Does that have a play on the industry? Absolutely. Is it the only play on the industry? Absolutely not. It is not the sole driver of any utility rate increase. The biggest driver of all utility rate increases in the electric industry is capacity, trying to meet those capacity demands. So if you recall back in 2020, 21, there was a major event that took place in our part of the country that you only read about or seen on the TV stations in the East Coast and West Coast of California, and that was rolling brownouts or rolling blackouts. Why did that take place? They didn't have enough production at that very time, so they had to shut part of the grid down to ensure that the grid stayed firm and stood up. 2021, Winter Storm Uri hit. It impacted us, if you can remember, in this part of Oklahoma. It had severe consequences in Texas, which is a totally separate entity of their own. You know, everybody talks about Texas being basically a country of their own because of the size of them and all that. Well, there's somewhat a little bit of truth in that aspect because in their utility side of things, it's what's referred to as ERCOT. They're not tied into an RTO, which is a regional transmission organization throughout the United States and the grid. So when that took place, everything had a hard time meeting the demand in electric. If you recall back seeing some of the news, reading some of the things that took place after that, they literally lost electricity in a lot of places. The bad part of it is they didn't just lose electricity, they lost what electricity fed and kept other utilities going, such as water plants. When you lose electricity to a water plant, guess what? You turn your faucet on, your water don't come out. There's nothing to push it. There's no motor to help push it through there. So they ended up having a major disaster down there that led from one utility downfall to two utility downfalls. There was an enormous amount of life that was lost in Winter Storm Uri that didn't need to be and didn't have to happen. But you learn from your lessons. You try to make things better from the things that's unexpected. Part of what took place in Texas during that event was some of the stuff I just alluded to earlier. The coal. There wasn't as many coal plants in Texas as there was 40 years ago. Texas had a big move on wind turbines, and they had a big push on solar panels. What nobody expected at that point in time is when the snow and ice covered over the solar panels, we couldn't generate the kilowatts. When the wind didn't blow, it didn't generate energy. So their capacity needs was not there when it needed to be there. That very scenario took place from Texas all the way up through North Dakota. 14 states in particular caught it really, really hard. We as Oklahoma caught that as well. I'll give you an example. In the city of Wagner, and I was in the utilities aspect of over there dealing with the same thing that East Central deals with here. Some entities in the state of Oklahoma did not have any issues. But other utilities in the state of Oklahoma absolutely had issues. Several of us in the municipal utility world had to take quote-unquote blackouts. In other words, we had to take our electric system down from 30 to 50 minutes, depending upon what the call was from our generator, and move forward. They was having to reduce and curtail load to ensure that the electric grid stayed whole at that point. We didn't take one, we took two, and we almost took three on the verge of that. The one thing I do want to tell you is, and I know this is a fact as East Central member, is East Central did not take anything for the biggest part of that aspect. See, we have two generating units, or generation and transmission organizations, three technically, but two of them that's actually generating. 90% of our electricity and generation comes through Associated Electric Co-op and KMO Power. 10% comes through Western Farmers. Now, Associated is set up kind of in their own aspects as an RTO, but they're not truly an RTO. Western, on the other side, is part of an RTO, which is SPP, Southwest Power Pool. That aspect is what I was part of in Wagner, Oklahoma, with SPP, when we took those aspects of those rolling blackouts. So, moving forward, when they called upon the capacity from these G&T organizations to be able to provide that, kind of like the salt market or something else, they forward their system farther than they had the means to produce. So when they called for, let's say, XYZ to produce 1,000 kilowatts in simple terminology, they could only produce 800. They was 200 kilowatts short. And I should be using meg, but I'm using kilowatts as a relevance to understand. Take that, multiply it over several different generations or generators, that starts adding up. They can't meet the demand. So they had to start taking curtailments. That's when that situation came full center to everybody in the electric utility industry in our part of the world. Since then, a lot of the RTOs have went in and put reserve capacities. And what I mean by reserve capacity is basically a generation unit over there that is set for reserve, that has the ability to come on when that demand is needed. So, you look at 36% winter. What do I mean by that? 36% is what the current reserve capacity is that is deemed necessary by SPP. Prior to 2020 and 2021, we didn't have this conversation. But everybody thought we had the capacity prior to that storm too, until that storm showed us otherwise we did not. 16% in the summer. Everybody used to have a peak in the summer with the electricity, with the air conditioners and the high temperatures, and if we don't get some rainfall soon, this summer may be another one of those years it's pretty hot due to Mother Nature and what she deals. I would love to be able to forecast Mother Nature and what she does, because chances are I wouldn't be up here as well as a big part of you guys. You would be able to predict what was going to take place on your farm or my farm or anything else, but we don't. So we have basically moved from a summer peaking entity to a winter peaking entity. And there's a slide some of the other staff are going to get up here and talk about, and it's going to explain that variation and difference of what that means to you, me, and the entire utility industry as a whole today in 2025 and moving forward. Rate increases, you see there's another bullet point down there from the GMTs in 2025 and 2026. April of 2025, we took a rate increase from our generator and transmission organizations, which is the entities above that I'm talking about. And hopefully, if you did not get a handout, there's a handout for everybody, so you can take this home. Part of our process is, one, to stand up here and ask the questions, be fully transparent to you, be honest with you, but also educate you and let you know what's to come as well. Because the more knowledge you have, knowledge is power. I have a different opinion of knowledge is power. Knowledge is potential power if you utilize knowledge correctly. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't put it to use, it's useless. So with that aspect, that's the reason we're trying to help our members understand what's in store for the future and what we're all dealing with, because believe me, what affects you affects us too. It affects me as a CEO, as a member, it affects the board as members, it affects all of us from that standpoint. But you've seen 2025. A couple days from now, we're turning April 1st. We have another rate increase coming from our GMTs. So we're having to adjust and modify and deal with all of those issues coming down the pipe, as well as trying to offset all of our internal costs that are constantly going up to ensure, and be point blank, everybody understands this, that we provide reliable, safe, and affordable electricity to the best of our abilities for our members moving forward. So there's a lot of moving parts going on right now that we're in the middle of, a lot of things that we're getting a handle on, and a lot of things that's just plumb out of our control, but we're mitigating everything that we can do from our aspect in the utility industry. The bottom point that you'll see, all resources are needed to meet today's demand. There's a lot of conversation out there where it's, it's all the fault of the green energy and the wind and the solar. It's all the fault of the carbon footprint and the coal power plants. Well, depending upon which side of that philosophy you're on, I guess you can make an argument on it, but I'm here to tell you today, all the resources are needed to meet today's demand moving forward. And it's not just issues such as the data centers that are you see in the news and everything else. It's manufacturing. A lot of the overseas manufacturing is coming back to the United States because of computer chips and stuff of that nature, trying to take control back of our own destiny in the United States. So you're seeing a big, massive going forward with manufacturing being stood up. In addition to that, look at the population. How much has the population grown in the last 15, 20 years? Significantly. So there's more houses being developed, more businesses coming on. All of that is part of this demand, and that is why all resources are needed today to meet today's demand. In regards to the power cost, I want to touch on that just a little bit at the bottom, and that coordinates to the topics that I'm talking about up there. If you'll notice on your left-hand side, it's pretty static, but you have peaks and valleys going through there depending upon the month and the time of year. But as you get into about 23, you see it starting to climb and starting to climb. That is the trajectory that all GNT units and generation and transmission entities are on and moving forward. This is issues such as Associated and KMO, Western Farmers, Grand River Dam Authority, PSO, OG&E, Tennessee Valley Authority, list goes on and on and on that I can sit there and talk about. Everybody is facing this same demand. The one conversation that's not on here is nuclear, and there's a lot of talk surrounding nuclear. But the price point and the cost to provide energy from the nuclear plant is just too high right now to be able to get to that median where you're starting to see nuclear plants. You do see some of these other entities, such as the Googles, the Amazons, that are actually going in there and restarting those entities, such as 3 Mile Island, if you guys have paid attention to any of that taking place. So it is all coming full circle to all resources are needed to meet today's demand. So you can take any one of those out, you don't help the situation. We need to continue to move forward with stuff of that nature and more generation that is continuing to be built. Unfortunately, there's a cost with building generation today. So I can get into a lot more of this. I'm going to come back and address a few other things, but I'm going to pass it off to one of the other staff members and talk about some of the other challenges. But as well as not only challenges as opportunities for us internally to be able to do the best that we can to serve our members, to assure that we continue to provide safe and reliable and affordable electric to our members.
All right, thank you. Like Dwayne was talking about before, this building right here is actually, we get power from Western Farmers from here, and the substation that it's delivered from is west of Henrietta. So here in the graph, you can kind of show our growth over the last few years. What we do here in operations, as far as these go, we've got 4 substations with Western Farmers, the rest are with KMO. So we have a lot more interaction with KMO than the other. We have a monthly planning meeting with KMO, and we talk about, if there's new subdivisions coming in, if there's a new commercial load coming on, and they need to know about that so that we can make sure that we have the substations, have the power ready when we need it. Also, what we look at is the peak on some of these transformers. On days like today, we're probably not using maybe a third, probably not a half of those transformers in the substations. So what we're planning for, what we're looking at is when it's 0 degrees outside, everybody's got their heaters running, and probably at that point, the heat pumps aren't working, so everybody's on strip heating, emergency heat. Got their water's dripping, everybody gets up, uses their hot water, everything's coming on at the same time. That's what we're looking at. And there's just very few of them days that we have to make sure that substation can meet that load. It's not days like today, it's those days that we've got to meet, that when you are ready to turn that heater on, we want to make sure that you have it. So that's some of the stuff that we talk to the GNTs about. Distribution lines, this is some of the stuff that we do on our level. This here shows you how much increase in prices have went up over the past, I believe it's 5 years. If you look at the transformers there, almost doubled in the past 5 years. Poles, 75% increase. Another thing, as far as I was going to say, the substation transformers. Last time KMO had to buy, they bought a transformer, I think it's in 2019. They paid around $600,000 for that transformer to sub. Today, they plan to pay $2 million for a transformer, and that transformer is about 4 to 5 years out. So that just kind of tells you how much things go up. Fleet, up 53%. Like I've said before, it costs a lot to keep the fleet running and up and make sure we got good vehicles to run with. When things happen, we'd a lot rather be working on lines than working on vehicles. So, next slide. Right away. This is one of the things we do that this directly affects our reliability. You can see last year we spent $4.1 million in right away, and we tried to cover our entire system in 5 to 6 years. And our right-of-way department does a really good job at doing that. In some places, I tell you right now, that's not enough. I think there's a lot of growth in some areas and more than others. But you can see right there, our reliability rate in 2025 was 99.92%. So this is one thing. We always try to keep the cost down as much as possible. We also spray our right-of-ways normally 2 years after we trim it. I always said it's a lot easier to control a tree when it's 5, 6 foot tall than when it's 30 foot tall. It's a lot cheaper to spray it than to cut it when it's 30 foot tall. Next slide. Also wanted to talk a little bit about some of the fiber and what we do in operations with it. we've been putting up some reclosers and putting some equipment on our SCADA system. What this allows us to do is we can see if we've got a recloser or a breaker out there on the line, we can see what the amperage is on that line. We can see what the voltage is on that line. For our system operations, they can control those devices from here in the office. In some cases, instead of sending a truck out to operate this device, we can do that from here in the office. So it's got a lot of benefits for us. Here in a second, we're going to show a video. What we're doing right now is we're going to stand up our smart grid. What am I thinking of? Self-healing system. And what that does is, this is a simple video that'll tell you better than I can. But basically, we let the equipment operate, isolate a piece of line that may, have potential hundreds of people off, and the equipment will isolate the line, and not near as many people be off, and until the lineman gets there and actually clears the pole. But this will explain it better than I just did. So.
A self-healing network that can greatly reduce power outages for our customers. CPS Energy can make this possible through Smart Grid Initiative. Smart sensors placed along our power lines and in our substations can detect trouble and communicate real-time information to automatically diagnose problems on the line and reroute the power supply. So how will a self-healing system work? Let's take a look. Here is a community made up of residential, business, and what we call critical need customers. You'll notice the homes, school, shopping center, and hospital all receive their power from power source A. You can also see power source B, which serves the southeast section of town. Now, notice switch 1, switch 2, and switch 3. These intelligent switches can automatically detect trouble on the lines and then start, stop, or reroute the power flow in order to isolate the problem. Let's see what happens when a vehicle accident occurs. An automobile is traveling east. The car hits a slick spot on the road and strikes a utility pole, damaging the pole and the power line. Today, without smart grid technology, power source A shuts down and the entire community, including homes, the shopping center, school, and hospital, will lose power. The power will remain out until the customer notified CPS Energy and crews were sent to make repairs. However, with smart sensors and control technologies, switch 1, switch 2, and switch 3 immediately detect the problem. As the car hits the pole, switch 1 senses an abnormal power flow from the damaged power line. Switch 1 then communicates with switches 2 and 3, and switch 1 and 2 open up to stop the flow of electricity and isolate the section of line between them. Power source A is now providing electricity to the shopping center. Switch 3, which is normally open from power source A, closes in order to provide electricity from power source B. Power source B is now rerouted to provide power to the remaining community. Power continues to flow to most area homes, the school, and the hospital. Only the customers served between switches 1 and 2 have lost power. While this animation has been slowed down to show you a series of events, this self-healing process would actually occur in just a few seconds. In fact, customers may notice only a brief blinking of the lights as the smart grid automatically isolates the outage and keeps power flowing to the greatest number of customers. The smart grid also automatically notifies CPS Energy's Energy Management Center, which can quickly send a repair crew to the area. The crew makes the repairs, and then the Energy Management Center remotely restores the power flow to its original state. A smart grid that can monitor itself can change the way CPS Energy does business. From improved reliability to faster restoration, we can use smart grid technologies to better serve our customers' needs.
Good evening. You just heard Jerome talk about smart grid and the benefits that fiber plays in helping the be more efficient in restoring outages and giving us information from an operations on the electric side perspective. I'm going to talk about one of the other benefits of the fiber project. It not only enables a smart grid, but it also enables broadband service for our members and our communities. In 2018, we were surveying the area, and 77% of our members were underserved or unserved in our territory. That's because no other provider would bring high-speed fiber internet service to our members. And the board realized that we have a commitment to serve our members and our communities. That's one of our mission statements. And that concern for community, they realized that this is just like electricity in 1938. Nobody else was going to do it unless we did it. And so the board voted. Well, first of all, they secured a grant in 2018, the Connect America Fund grant, and they secured that grant, and then they voted to establish Echolink and start the fiber broadband project. We all know what happened in 2020 with COVID and the lockdowns and work from home and school from home and lives turned upside down. We really kicked it up in another notch, and we prioritized schools and teachers and telemedicine and work from home. But we've just really been committed to, on the fiber side, to making sure that we're serving our communities and our members. Thank you.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the meter and the tools that we have available to our members to help you better understand how your home is using power. So as far as our meters, they are the newest technology out there. We've replaced all of them in the last 5 to 7 years. They are solid state meters, and we read those from our office. And we display as much of the readings as we can for you, the member, in both our mobile app and our online platform. This is an example of our mobile app here. It's called our Smart Hub. And what we show is your daily usage. We also can break it down into your hourly usage. And so what this does is kind of give you a little chart. If you go onto the website, you can turn on high and low temperatures. This one gives you average temperatures. But there's a little explanation point in the top corner that a lot of people don't know is there. If you're not a chart person, you can click that and it flips the screen and gives you detail. So if you're more of a detailed person, you can look at a summary. It tells you your high, low, average kilowatt hours, high, low, average temperature for that particular day. It also gives you by hour if it has the data. And if you'll notice on that page, it tells you we don't use this information, this hourly information, to bill you. It is just for your information. So within that same tool, we have some newer tools that came online about 5 years ago. And what it does is it does a little analysis. Every appliance that you have gives off a certain frequency. And so it tries to aggregate that frequency and give you more information about what your home uses. It breaks it down to heat, cooling, there is cooking, hot water heating, entertainment, and it even does an always on. And that's the one that has surprised me, is my always on is sometimes higher than anything else in my bill. To Dwayne's point, 50 years ago, we didn't have near what we have plugged in now. I get to thinking about it even 15 years ago. I have way more plugged in now than I did. So it's an interesting tool. It kind of breaks it down in several different charts for you. So some other tools we have to help with billing. We offer four billing due dates. We call them billing cycles. So if you have a certain due date that, or you get paid at a certain time of the month, give us a call. We will work with you on changing your due date if the one that you have just is consistently not working for you. We also offer average monthly billing for those that qualify, instead of the peaks and valleys of weather change and stuff like that, it will average your bill out over 12 months. It is a true rolling average, so it changes slightly every month with your bill. And then we also offer prepaid billing. We have a lot of members who absolutely love this. The tools within the Smart Hub app when you're on prepaid billing literally tells you the dollar amount of your bill. And so instead of waiting 30 days, we bill you today for the previous 30 days, we bill you today for what you used yesterday. And so the average person on prepay saves 5% because they're paying a little more attention. So I wanted to kind of give you guys a synopsis of some of these tools. This is 2 different members' bills. One is what I consider a low usage. These are homes, not a barn or anything. One's considered a low usage, one's a little higher usage. And show you the patterns. This is a 2.5 week time frame, and I chose this 2.5 week because this 2.5 weeks has crazy weather, Oklahoma weather. So if we all remember on, I think it was March 16th, which is right here. March 16th is right here. So we're going from March 6th, where your temperatures are in the average 70, 50, 60, 70, and then on March 16th, it dropped. The average temperature that day was 33. You see a pattern on both of those, a heat load. 2 days later, it was right back into the 70s, and this high right here, where you see these two, it was almost 90 degrees. Probably turned the air conditioner on. So this is a wonderful tool to see how your home is responding to the weather. One of the questions we get a lot is, I've not touched my thermostat. If I haven't touched my thermostat, there's no way the weather should affect what my home is doing. Well, so I've got this here for you to kind of show you what's called degree differential. In the wintertime, if we keep our thermostat at 70 and it's 20 degrees, we're asking our home to stay 50 degrees warmer than it is outside. Same in the summer, we leave it at 70, we haven't touched it, but it's 90 outside. We're asking our home to stay 20 degrees warmer, or cooler, excuse me, than it is outside. So degree differential does have a massive effect on usage. Things like the insulation of your home, your windows, your doors, all those little things that they kind of add up as far as how quickly your house will degree differential, but it will do it. Think about a chest freezer. Number one thing we get in a big power outage, what about my chest freezer? Well, that thing's just solid insulation with a lid shut, but it will eventually de-thaw. So your home is no different. And so we wanted to kind of show you some of the tools that help you see how your home is reacting to it. And if you see a huge reaction when your heat load's on or something, we're here to help you with some of that. So let me show you on the next slide how degree differential affects usage. These are 4 different usages, and they all have the same factors going against them. When you go over 2,000 kilowatt hours with East Central Electric, there is a discount, a slight discount. You can see how this affects. 500 kilowatt hours, you got a $91 bill. You go up to 2,000, it goes to $262. So when we can help you see how your home is using power, help you reduce the amount of power you use, that will help with these calculations. So what I'm going to do is pass it over to Catherine. She's going to go into further how we try to help you reduce your power. When you're seeing something that just doesn't seem to add up to you, she's going to tell you some things that will try and help you reduce that.
Good evening, everyone. So here at East Central, we do have different services that we can help you look at what's going on in your home to help you lower your usage. Our homes, sometimes we don't think about it, but they're just like our vehicles. So when you're driving your car and you see that check engine light pop up, and if you're like me, you try to ignore that as long as possible until you hear a sound or something falls off. Your home is the same thing. It has a check engine light, but we don't see those. And our check engine light for homes is our usage. When our usage starts going up, that's when it's time to start looking and maintaining and seeing what's going on in the home. Just like our vehicles, our home needs to be maintained. Our HVAC systems need tune-up, things like that to help lower your usage. So we do offer energy audits where we do have a third party that comes out at no cost for you to look at your home and see what may be going on, like no insulation or the lack of insulation, cracks or that ceilings that needs to be around your windows or your doors, things like that. They'll do a blower door test, and then they'll give you a full report of what's going on in the home and some of the changes you can make to help get your home more energy efficient. Also, we do offer rebates to help offset some of those costs. So if you decide to make those changes, we do have rebates through our power suppliers that help cover some of those costs, so that way you can make those changes to lower your usage. So one of the biggest things too in our homes, we call energy vampires. We don't realize when we plug in our cell phones, our stoves that have clocks, our smart TVs, they are always constantly pulling power when they're plugged in. So if you have a power strip, those are normally great. So if you're not using it, you can turn off that power strip and it helps contain that power or that usage. But a lot of these devices that we have plugged in, it is pretty much pulling power into those devices. Like if you ever think about, when you're about to work on your stove or work on a dryer and there's a warning that says, please unplug it, there's power still generating through those appliances or those equipment and devices. So a lot of those, although they don't pull a whole lot of power, it's pretty small, but it does add up. So we do encourage to be mindful of things like that, but also we can come out and look at your home with you. Also, we can do an energy analysis where we can look at your usage throughout every month and see how your home is using power, as well as finding trends so we can help you locate that. But we also, anything that we can come out and help you pinpoint what may be going on in your home, we would love to come out and do that. So if you notice your usage going up, please reach out to us, because we would like to have a conversation and come out and see what we can do to help you lower your usage. Also, whenever we think about peak and demand, a lot of times we think of commercial or the large industrial companies, but what we need to think about as well is our homes, our residential homes, also sets a peak demand. And this illustration shows the don't tower your power, meaning when we turn everything on at the same time, we are pulling or we're setting a peak at our home, stating that that's the highest usage that our home can use. And later on, we pay for that through our power supplier, because that's how much is being put on our system. So being able to spread it out and level it out will help minimize setting that peak. And if you can see as far as dollar signs too, the higher the peak we set, the more dollar signs that goes up. That's the more cost that gets applied to the bill. I'm gonna throw it over to Dwayne, and he's going to talk more about peak and demand and how that plays a factor in the cost as well.
Now, if you recall, tying back to the very first slide that we talked about and the amount of energy usage that's needed to be produced through our GNTs for us as members, commercial entities, establishments, etc., this is where that previous slide and that peak that's got to be provided, the most amount of energy that any house, business, or entity needs at one point in time, because when they flip an electric light switch, they expect the power to come on, the lights come on, just like you and me. So that energy has got to be there available and ready. That sends a signal back to our GNTs to make sure that they have adequacy and the capacity to provide that amount of energy for not only us, but everybody else on the system. I'm going to point out a couple of things, because in the previous slide, it talked about, and if you'll go back to that previous slide just for a little bit, you know, it says this directly affects our power cost. And despite rising peak demands, each of us can play a part. Here's I'm going to show you an example of how we all can help play a part in this. And if you go back to the slide that we was originally on, I'm going to give you an example. Here's what I'm going to throw in on top of that too. The grow houses. The grow houses has an impact and had an impact on these 3 different years that I'm going to talk about. But the grow houses alone did not cause the entire impact. It was the whole customer-based aspect of East Central Electric and its members and users that directly comes into this graph is showing. So if you look at 2024, and I can tell you from the amount of grow houses that East Central Electric had as an example on their system that needed to provide energy to those grow houses at that point in time in 2024, you can see it was right up there on that left-hand scale, right around 200. Okay? Now, if you'll look into 2025, that leveled down. If you look in even to 24, if we're just starting this graph with the light green or fluorescent or whatever color your eyesight might determine for you at that point in time, we're even on a slower and lower trajectory. Now, we do not have the amount of grow houses we had back in that time frame. We've lost some of those grow houses, as well as the demand has not been there. We say, why has the demand not been there? Well, there's a multitude of issues that can play into that. Weather is one of those factors as well, depending upon if we've had a cold winter and a hot summer, or if we've had a mild winter and a normal summer, or any of that nature. Give you an example. This year alone, in 25, and I remember this really to the point, because it's just odd for me. On Christmas Eve, I was literally feeding cattle in short sleeves and a shirt. Normally, that don't take place. I've got coats on and everything else, and sometimes we're dealing with even snow or an ice conversation. No, it was hot on Christmas Eve. So the weather has a direct impact to that. Fast forward or roll back even beyond that, this last summer. How many degrees did we have 100+ temperatures? Very few. If you go back and look at the statistics, you can probably count them on one hand. And they usually happened at the end of July or August, when we've had years that we've had as many as 10, 12, 15 100 degree days. And the weatherman points that out to us every year in talking about that. But that is a direct reflection to those lines and those peaks. Now, here's an important factor. Why do I have 3 years up there, and why are we talking about this? Our peak demand that we set in 2024 for the entire footprint of East Central, we didn't pay for until 2025. So in 2025, we was paying for 2024's peak set from our GNT entities to produce capacity. Fast forward to 25 or 26. We're just now starting out our 26 year, and you'll see a slightly level, but it's still elevated above 2. That was our peak demand that was set back in February of last year. Well, what happened in February of last year? Can anybody remember? We had snow on the ground. It was cold. Energy usage was extreme at that point in time, because to Tamara's slide earlier, talking about the differentiation of the ambient temperature and having to moderate a 40 or 50 degree differentiation in your home and my home versus a summer of just 20 degrees, the demand on the system was significantly higher. So that set the peak. The rest of the year, as you'll notice, we got into June and July. Yeah, she ticked back up, but she never hit that peak. So moving forward, our peak demand is going down. Part of that is due to losing some of the marijuana grow houses that we don't have on the system no more, which is a benefit to us as a whole. But it's also impacts of how we moderate our usage at home and how Mother Nature plays into that context as well. So right now, as you'll notice, we have set our peak in January of this year, right out the bat. Our peak usage in February was significantly lower. We haven't got our peak rate or demand from our GNTs for March just yet to be able to chart that out. The problem or challenge, I should say, in this aspect is we have to pay last year's peak demand on this year's revenue cost. So as these are getting high or lower, it's great in the same aspect, but if our revenue and our usage is not there to modify that, it puts pressures on our rates as well. As Tamara alludes, we're one entity that asks and provides and tries to help our members save money that's actually detrimental to us as a co-op, but that's okay. You want to tell you why that's okay? Because we're not for-profit entity, and that is very big. We're not an OG&E, we're not a PSO, we do not have stockholders, we do not have investors. The members of East Central are those people. So all we do as a non-for-profit is just to generate enough revenue to meet our expenses and the demand of those expenses to ensure that we're able to keep the light and electricity flowing to you. And if we end up having more revenue or more margins than what's anticipated, we return that back to our members, either through the CCA aspect or capital credits and of that nature. So I wanted to point out how that demand has an impact that we all have the ability to help control as well. Part of our aspect, I'm fixing to turn over to Teresa with the county. She's going to tell you and show you a graph up here of the dollar bill. This is a simplistic way to show pieces of the dollar bill and where those pieces and how much of those pieces of that dollar are generated into what avenue and what is taking place from East Central and us as the members that it impacts.
Good evening. If you look at the dollar bill, our highest cost is our power suppliers. We pay 52 cents out of every dollar goes to our power supplier. And then the next cost comes in as our loan interest and our depreciation is 24 cents. Those are what we call fixed cost. We can't really do anything about those. We have to pay them no matter what. Now, things that we can control is improve and maintain their system, which we told you guys we don't want to affect reliability and safety. So we want that to continue on. 8 cents to the facilities and our employees, the biggest part of that is going to our facilities. And 3 cents to member services. That's 24 cents out of every dollar is what we can control here at the co-op. The actions we've taken to help to control our costs is there is a CCA and it exists to cover expenses when revenues that do not make margins. So one of the things we've done is level out the CCA so you don't see that big peak that you saw back in November. We look at a full year instead of a month. So we're working on leveling that out instead of this. We also have forecasted and we levelize our big bills. We have some huge bills come due at the end of the year, just like you do, house insurance, taxes, stuff like that. We take an estimate and we levelize it out in the budget so we don't have this big swing. And like I said, we do take a rolling average of our consumer cost adjustment. We are, another thing we're looking at a cost of service study. Matter of fact, we're gathering the information now that will help us look at the rates for each individual rate class. And I'm going to turn it back over to Dwayne so he can explain that more to you.
Touching base on a little bit of the cost of service aspect and moving forward. As you will see, some of the costs in the utility industry, not just East Central, but I want to talk about East Central at this point in time, even though this affects everybody in the utility industry, our costs have went up. I don't stand up here to defend why rates are going up or any of that nature. I stand up here to make that comment just to help educate and everybody understand what we are all dealing with in the industry. We absolutely are taking every possible measure internally here at the co-op to control expenses, reduce expenses, and mitigate every increase we can to the best of our ability. However, we do not want to sacrifice safety for our men and women, and we do not want to sacrifice the reliability to our members. We want to ensure when you flip that switch on, that electric's going to come on. Whether it's for a heater in the dead of the winter, for your house or your livestock, or in the summer, and your grandparents to ensure that they're comfortable at their house and what they're dealing with as well. So that cost of service is being performed to help make sure those rate classes from residential, grows, commercials, water wells, oil wells, and all that are appropriately classed and accounted for in the proper rate structure of intent. I want to make sure, and I've said this several times already in the forum, and I intend to do this, and I know the board has the same intent, because they have the same feelings I do moving forward, but we want to make sure every rate class is paying their adequate share, but not a penny more from that aspect. At the end of the day, it's all about usage and how much electricity is pulled, but we want to do everything that we can to minimize all of those costs and how that affects every member of their utility bill. So some of the actions taken, what we've done, the cost of service, what Teresa alluded to with CCA, what I talked about a little bit about the PCA, what I did not talk about in the front end, and I'm going to piggyback off of Teresa a little bit, is we're working on trying to help mitigate the PCA aspect, because as you notice and seen in that chart, that PCA continues to rise. We have absolute zero control over that cost to produce power. We do have an ability to help control that demand of that cost that we get from GNTs, but the cost to produce power, look at today. Look what's happened in the last 2 or 3 weeks. No fault of our own. We did not make this direction, and I'm not going to get into politics, but this is a reality of economics. What was gas a month ago? What was diesel a month ago? What is it today down the road on that same station? As an example, on the farm side of things with me, with hay and cattle and grass, and looking forward to the summer and hoping we get enough rainfall to be able to meet the estimation and prediction of next year's winter, I need to fertilize some pasture. I'm scared, honestly, to price urea and fertilizer, because I'm pretty sure it's tracking the same track that diesel and gas is doing right now. I have no control over that. But if I want to continue doing business, I have to do it to the best of my ability and make the best arrangements I can to continue moving forward. So into some of the actions that we're taking here at East Central, and some of this you guys can help us. As a matter of fact, you guys can help us significantly. But a big part of that is you've got to be engaged. You've got to be engaged with your co-op. You've got to be engaged with your board members. You got to be engaged with the political atmosphere we're all involved in right now that is dealing with the utility industry and what's coming about. What can we influence? We, not East Central, but we, members, the general public, and everything. We can help influence state and federal energy regulations by picking up that phone and calling our U.S. representatives and state legislatures. They are the ones that assess the policy. They are the ones that assess the direction, the capacity, some of this other stuff that we was talking about with the energy demands. Our GNT decision making, that rolls down and affects what they're able to do and not able to do. Look at the environmental standards that's been placed, and now some of it's been rolled back. So the restrictions are not there, which eases up the cost to help continue production of energy. What can we control? We can control planning to the best of our ability with the best foresight that we can. And that's what we're trying to do, and that's what we continue and will do into the future under my direction. As part of the reason Teresa alluded to with the levelizing out of the CCA, what we're intending to do with the PCA as well, and that cost of service and the impacts that it has to all of us and our members. Being transparent. Guys, I'm not gonna stand up here and give you some song and dance. I'm just gonna be honest with you and we'll be straightforward. When I took this job, when I was interviewed, I had three main objectives that I set, and it was very vital and core to me, not only as a member, but as a general manager, CEO, city manager, whatever title you want to put in that conversation. I always want to be upfront and transparent. I don't want to, somebody said, we said this to this group, we said that to that group. No, what I say to the employees of East Central, I'm going to say the same thing to the members of East Central. That I'm going to say the same thing to the board of East Central. I'm going to put forth facts, and we're going to solve solutions to the best of our ability. That conversation will never change. We're going to educate. We're going to help put the aspect of knowledge is power. No, knowledge is potential power if it's not utilized. So we're going to educate people so they have the knowledge to help arm them and put some controlling factors in what they're able to do to help us as a co-op in that aspect. Reliability. We talked about a little bit of the fiber this evening and how the fiber not only helps our membership and the work from home and our members today and the lifestyle that is needed, whether it be telemedicine, whether it be school systems and schools and education today, or whether it impacts and has a direct effect on our reliability and quickness of how fast we're able to restore outages during a bad storm or during an issue that we did not have control over, but we had to deal with. Oversight comes from multiple layers. It comes from employees, it comes from management, and it also comes from a member elected board and you as member owners. We are here to work for you. The members own East Central Electric. The members are the stockholders of East Central Electric. The members benefit the most from East Central Electric, and that is always the anticipated foot that we will always put forward, because that's the foundation principles of what the co-op principle was founded upon when there was no electricity in rural America, or at my grandfather's dairy farm, when electricity finally came about. The cost of service I already talked about, we're in the motion of that right now. It's being provided by a third-party rate consultant that does this utility rise. So we are moving forward with plans of action. We are actually moving in a direction. We're not standing up here and saying, oh, this happened, that happened. We are actually taking action to mitigate things for today and into the future for not only our membership current, but our future membership. And what I mean by that is our kids and our grandkids that follow along our footsteps after we're no longer on this great earth. So with that, I'm going to kind of wrap it up. We tried to orchestrate, and we have at several of these forums, generate some slides, some information based upon a lot of the questions that we've got throughout this entire process. So we've done that to help try to educate and answer those questions. But at this point in time, I'm going to ask if we have any questions of the audience or any of the members that are here, because we want to be upfront. We want to answer the questions. We don't shy away from them. Sometimes the answer may not be as what you want to hear, but we're going to be honest and truthful with you, and we're going to answer your question, and then we're going to mitigate, as we are doing right now, the best of our ability in a utility world, that some parts of it we have no control over, but the parts that we do have control over, we're absolutely taking control of it.
It's time for questions. Anybody have any questions after all that useful information? If you do, raise your hand. I'll bring you the microphone. And if you don't, stick around. Guys, that they will be here a little bit longer to answer any questions that you may have. No questions?
Steve, I want to thank you for being the moderator tonight. I appreciate you. We value your membership as well as in East Central. I want to take appreciation to all the employees that are here as well. One comment I wanna make about that, a lot of people forget about this, but a lot of these employees are member owners of this co-op too. So their voice matters as much as everybody else's does. And guess what, right now, they're on their own time. They're here because they care enough that they wanna be here. The other standpoint that I wanna close out, we'll hang around. Sometimes I know people's uncomfortable asking you a question in a public setting. Come up to us one-on-one, off to the side. Guys, we are here to serve you, and we will always be here to serve you. So with that, thank you for the board being here tonight. Thank you for the people that showed up, as well as our members. And thank you guys for just being here when you had a beautiful day and you had an opportunity to be somewhere else, but you chose to be here with us tonight, and we appreciate that. Thank you.